called you a different English name every day, how you yourself thought your name was Emily when it was actually Esther and spent 2 weeks telling people to call you Emily, and how you once entered the country on the same day school started. And yes, my Asian mother made me attend school that day. Secondly, Canadians aren't all nice like everyone thinks they are. Some might say I'm the Canadian question, but that's beside the point. And lastly, I've learned that my obsession with my future was killing my future. I know. Whoa. Let's slow down a second. Currently, we live in a society deeply entrenched in what the future holds. This can be seen in the forecasts we get every day, the business models practically built upon predicting future trends, and a rise in romanticizing futures. While these examples may seem beneficial, this futuristic attitude has quickly become an obsession with an ideal future. Especially after the pandemic, more and more people have become fixed on what the future holds to escape the misery of the present. But as this happens, our focus on the future is no longer a healthy milestone. It becomes a temporary distraction which actually turns out to impede our progress in the present. And that is my concern. Not only does this fixation polarize the present and future, it creates tunnel vision on an unrealistic or even unnecessary circumstance which ultimately leads to disappointment. I liken the situation to eating sweets. Having some once in a while is healthy and can make you happy, but having too much and becoming addicted leads to cavities, dentist appointments, and scary tools in your mouth. At least, that's what I always taught my little sister, and it works most of the time. So today, we will take a closer look at the nutrition label to see why an obsession with our futures is unhealthy, undercover the ways this fixation is ingrained in us from a young age, and undercover the ways that we can resist the temptation by shifting our focus to the present, using the future as a healthy milestone to motivate us. Whenever my family goes to Quick Trip or any random gas station, my sister will sprint to the candy section. It's like there's a magnet holding her and the candy together. We have a similar attraction to the future. As humans, a major factor that sets us apart from animals is our ability to look at our prospects and create a future in our minds. This future can either be better or worse than your current situation, but it has to be different than the present. Now, if it's the former, you most likely have anxiety, and I'm not qualified to talk about that. But if it's the latter, a fixation on it will often manifest in ways that impede your current progress. Think about it this way. You may have spent an hour before studying creating the perfect study space, switching music until it feels right, and doing everything that leads up to studying but isn't studying. This is because you've created an ideal study space in your mind, and any situation that differs from it no longer seems favorable. While that may seem like a small problem, if we zoom out a little, you'll see instances where people constantly wait for the new year or a new situation for everything in their lives to suddenly change. The reality is, the first day of the year is simply another day. But because we create a situation in our minds of exactly how our future is going to work out, we become convinced that going into a new year is the main factor that transforms our lives. This is exemplified by the fact that half of all Americans create New Year resolutions, but only 3% actually keep them. So, rather than helping us, this perfect future acts as distraction, forcing us to think that only when there is some type of illustrious signal that goes off can we begin to live our best life. There are 2 problems work, but instead, we refuse to earn it and label our circumstances as the problem. This allows us to escape the present, insisting that the problem is our current situation. On top of that, this unintentionally creates the mindset that our future situation will just appear somehow, without any action from the present. People always say, this new year is going to be my year, then do nothing to make it their year. They expect the circumstance of going into a new year to change their habits, their schedules, and turn their lives around. So instead of actually attempting to discipline themselves, they simply wait for the new year to come around. My sister cried to escape from the harsh reality that she had to finish her dinner first. In the same way, we complain about our current situation and put all our expectations on an imagined future circumstance to revolutionize our lives. But Grace didn't get her chocolate no matter how much she cried, and we will never reach our goals waiting for each new year to come around. Now, my sister thinks that eating candy will satiate her desire for it and make her happy forever. But we all know that in a few hours, she's going to be back asking for more. In the same sense, our desire for future circumstances to come true puts us in a vicious cycle of expecting or desiring more favorable circumstances. Because when we mess up and lose sight of our New Year's resolutions, we wait for that next new year to restart everything. Again, no work is done, and we remain disappointed. Now you may ask, Esther, how do we even have this problem? Good question. Once again, the answer is capitalism. I'm kidding. Sort of. Author and journalist, states that the need to own, win, and get to the future, often spoken by today's political and corporate leaders, has its roots in the post-Enlightenment notion of technological improvement and universal education. So basically, this fixation has been ingrained in us from a young age and is perpetuated by claims made by today's leaders. This is pretty understandable, as we are surrounded by talks of future innovation and how our lives will be perfect when new technology comes out. These statements make us more susceptible to a futuristic mindset and ingrains in us the idea that our reality will be perfect when these future circumstances fall in place. And since we aren't the scientists working in the labs that make new technology, we simply feel the effects of innovation after it is implemented and perfected, we subconsciously believe that these circumstances will just fall in place by themselves. Growing up, constantly on the move, I always looked forward to the idea of starting my life over in a place where nobody knew me. Whenever I felt like my life was spiraling out of control, my parents would come in with a convenient announcement about how we were moving, and I could push aside all my problems to think that moving would change everything. I saw myself as a video game character, constantly restarting when I failed, and all that mattered was winning on my 75th try. That all my past experiences were just practice rounds for that future me. But unfortunately, I realized that moving didn't change my problems or make them better. Changing my circumstances didn't change my life magically for the better. Changed my life for the better. In this way, we can see that even though the reality is our lives are not a video game simulation. And although my dad may make up intricate theories about how we're all living in a matrix and we're going to die soon, you know as well as I do that your past and present experiences are an essential part of your identity. So, don't get caught up in the cycle of waiting for your future circumstances to come true. Embrace your present for what it is and don't polarize it from your future goals. Instead, realize that your present is the starting point that you need to work from. You can't wait for your situation to radically change in order to start improving. More importantly, understand that your future most certainly won't pan out in the way that you imagined. So don't limit yourself by clinging on to one supposedly perfect future. Think about whether you are using your future as a healthy milestone or as an escape from reality. And enjoy the process, because this is your life. Lastly, trust. As someone who's lived in 3 countries, I give out the best advice. So,